all right, you showed up, and hey, that's already a win. You've officially done more than, I don't know, 90%. It's a made up statistic, but 90% of the people who say they want to be funny but never write anything down because they're more of an improv vibe. Improv's cool, but not an excuse. When they say things like that, it's kind of just code for I'm terrified of structure.
It's all messed up, yeah, everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just our setup.
You want to be funny? Good. You kind of need a guide, a map, because without some structure, you're not really a comedian. You're like a lost child at the mall, hoping someone finds you adorable enough to go viral. So let me be clear, right? This isn't one of those garage guides or garage maps that looks like a TED Talk diagram drawn in dry erase marker by a guy with zero stage time and a lot of thoughts about humor as a form of social glue. No, this is the only map that really matters to getting your first joke. It's 3 steps. That's it. I'm not even going to create the map. You're just going to make a mental map of it. 3 steps. That's it. Here we go. Step 1. What happened? Step 2. What should have happened? Step 3. What happened instead? All right, let me repeat. What happened? 1. What should have happened? 2. What happened instead? 3. That's your whole joke, at least for now. That's the spine, that's the bones, everything else, your cleverness, your tags, your delivery, none of it matters if that skeleton's broken or you don't have it in the first place. So let me walk you through it using some of my own material because I'm not going to make up some corny example about airports here or vending machines or whatever. It's not my style. You want those jokes? Go watch, I don't know, TikTok. We're doing real life here. Here's one. You know how you think back to when you're young and like you have this great, sweet childhood memory with your dad? For me, it's the time I was 5 years old and helped my dad wash his blue Firebird. As a kid, I thought it was the coolest car. Turns out we were washing it so he could use it later that day to skip town and look good while doing so. So that's a long joke. If I'm working on that, I'm going to cut it down. Like in video 1, you saw a shorter, more succinct version of that joke. Fine. So that's what I started with, right? I wrote out sort of a story like that, a longer setup, and then a shorter punch. But let me just break it down, sort of that spine. And I wanted to use the long version, especially so you can see it more easily. All right. What happened? What happened is that I helped my dad one day as a child while he was washing his car. Now, I don't need to tell you all that beginning stuff. Remember when, you're a kid, yada, yada, yada? I could just start with that. When I was 5, I helped my dad wash his car one day. And that's the shorter version that you heard in video 1, right? So what happened? I helped my dad wash his car. What should have happened? We bond. It's a great father-son moment. Maybe we go get ice cream after. What actually happened? He used the freshly washed car to disappear, like a magician, but without the clout or dignity. And that's a joke because the expectation and the reality punch each other in the face. That's why it works. You don't need clever. You need contrast. Let me take it a step further. All right, we can add a tag to this, and the tag is just when we build on the previous setup and punchline, on the previous joke, right? We cleaned it, and then he handed my mom the divorce papers, and that's when I realized my most cherished memories in life all come in fine print, right? Not a hilarious joke. That's a decent tag. Here's another. I had no idea he was going to split. It was like a version of Gone in 60 Seconds, but starring my dad. And that's the map at work: setup, expectation, twist, tag, repeat, right? If that joke didn't have a solid spine, it wouldn't land. It wouldn't just be, it would just be trauma sharing, which is what a lot of people go do at like open mics, right? They're working it out, a lot of them, when they do that, but that's what they do. Here's another example. This one starts a little bit cleaner, right? In a natural disaster, they say rule number 1 is leave everything behind. They left my house, my car, my kids. You hear it? That's the structure. That's the rule, the setup. The expectation is we're talking about things. The twist is I added people, and not just any people. There are people that I'm definitely not supposed to leave unless I'm already halfway through a midlife crisis. So then I'm going to tag it, right? They're just fine, just really wet and mad. And so I got 2 tags there, right? And I could keep going. And that's basically our family. And so now here's where you come in, because you've got stories like this. Maybe not as dark, or maybe worse, but you got them. And I don't care who you are, if you've lived longer than 12 minutes, life has set you up with a false sense of peace and then hit you with a punchline. Your job is to remember it, name it, twist it. One way to help you remember, write it down on a piece of paper or in your phone, record, voice memo, whatever. Get it locked in. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab something that happened to you within the last week, something dumb, something frustrating, something small. Don't overreach, and don't try to be funny. That's a key here when you're writing jokes. Don't try to be funny. The funny will just come out. You don't need to force it. Maybe last week you were making dinner and you burnt the dinner. Maybe your kid asked you if you're too old to do push-ups. I don't know. Maybe you sent a risky text to somebody or a wrong text and you got a thumbs up back. I don't know. That's it. Whatever it is, that's your seed. And now you're going to run it through that mental map I gave you, the 3 steps. So let's say your kid asks you, or some kid asks you, "Are you old enough to be a grandpa?" Okay. All right. So like if a kid asks me that, like maybe I'm tying some little kid's shoes and they, "Are you old enough to be a grandpa?" Right? Well, what happened there? That's question 1, right? I was literally tying his shoes and he insulted me casually. What should have happened? Well, respect should have happened. The kid should have respected, maybe a thank you. And then what actually happened? I got roasted like I was a contestant on, America's Next Grandpa or America's Next Deceased Father or whatever. So now we got to write the punch. A kid asked if I was old enough to be a grandpa. I said, "If you keep this up, you're about to meet Jesus and find out." So structure, timing, right? What we have there is pain plus honesty plus a turn, and it becomes essentially a joke because we also have a punchline. Here's another one. Right? In a natural disaster, they say rule number 1 is leave everything behind. The same kind of thing that 66% of dads do when their kids are born. Okay, so the joke's gone a different way. You want edge? There's some edge, right? That one burns a little bit, but it works because we're setting up a survivor rule and then we're twisting it into an abandonment joke that feels both real and wrong at the same time, because it is. All right, I'm wondering if you're getting it or not getting it, so let me put it even simpler. A joke is kind of like just disappointment with good pacing. Now, I don't want to argue about real definitions of jokes. There are better definitions of that than that, but let's just hang with that for a minute, right? A joke is like disappointment with good pacing. Okay, that's it. Think of it that way for now. You take something that hurt you or surprised or confused you, something messed up, and you guide the audience to expect one thing, and then you rip that expectation out from under them. Actually, we could have a nice fill in the blank setup to use here. If we just think in terms of logic, and I love this, logical propositions, because really what makes jokes funny is that they contain logical fallacies. So we have logic, 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 and then a fallacy, and that's what makes the joke funny. So we could think of jokes like logical propositions, and you've heard of these, like if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C, that kind of thing. Well, we can kind of do jokes like that at a very elementary level, right? So we can do something like this and create like a joke template just to get us going, right? And this gets much more sophisticated over time. But this is a great place to start. Rudimentary sort of exercises, the mechanics of basic jokes and joke writing. So you do something like this. I thought X would help. Turns out Y made it worse. Okay, so we could do something like this. I thought moving to a new town would be a fresh start, would help. Turns out starting over means people still suck, just with different accents. So you see how that worked, right? Here's another setup, another template that we could use like that. People say X, but I tried it and ended up with Y. And here for X, we're just going to use a common phrase, and then Y, we're going to turn it into a terrible result, right? So people say, just be honest in relationships, or people say in relationships, honesty is the best policy. Cool. I was honest once, and Now I get passive aggressive texts from my wife every time the microwave beeps. It's not really that fun, but you get the idea of how it works. We could sit here and go through 20, 30, 40, 50 more. What matters most is that you use your own ideas, your own mess, in other words, your own memories, your own pain. And if you don't feel it when you write it, if there's no emotion behind it, then no one's going to feel it when you say it. So let me give you one more real joke that I've written. And it's a spin-off of the previous one. In a natural disaster, they say rule number one is leave everything behind. So I grabbed my neighbor's wallet. Right, in this case, I actually didn't leave it behind. I didn't want to leave it behind. And that joke works because it breaks the rule we all agree on. Rule number one, leave everything behind, and it replaces it with this illogical behavior, this selfish survival. It's messed up. That's why it works. So, you want to write jokes? You gotta get comfortable with your flaws, your mess ups, the messed up stuff in your life, the mess ups all around you, your hypocrisy, your bad thoughts. All that's fuel. Don't try to be better than the audience. You could be worse, right? But be honest about it. So, here's an assignment, no excuses, right? Write down 3 things that happened this week that frustrated you. And for each one, write what you expected to happen. And then write what actually happened. So you're getting the 3 things there, right? What happened, what you expected to happen, what actually happened. Write 3 things. And now, after you've done that, I want you to write 3 punchlines per situation. Yes, 3. One will suck. Hopefully one will be okay. Hopefully one will surprise you. This is how we start to build our comedy muscles, our joke writing muscles. We do reps like this. And if you don't like the first few, welcome to stand-up comedy and joke writing. If it were easy, you wouldn't be watching this course. You'd be in a green room getting paid and drink tickets and trauma, right? So in the next module, we're going to steal from yourself. I'm going to show you how to turn your honest answers and raw setups into full-blown jokes that could actually get laughs. But this map right here, this mental map, is the key. You can take this structure and you can build a 5-minute set. You can build a special. You can build an entire identity around it. But remember, what happened, what should have happened, what actually happened. That's the map. Tattoo it on your brain, on your soul, or just write it in your notebook. Next up, we're going to finish your first real joke. So write those 3 things down, then let's go.
It's all messed up, yeah, everything's messed up. We're going from this mess up to the next setup. Everything seems so messed up, but it's just our setup.